Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson, and we want everybody to know with an invisible condition, no matter what that condition is, you do have a voice, you have a community, and you are never alone. And of course, part of that community is my amazing co-host who will be joining me today, Michal. Hello, good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Awesome. So, for those of you who don't know Michal, she starting in season 4. She has started co-hosting the show with me a couple times a month to get the word out about some of the amazing things that I've learned from her and that she is doing in the lives of other people. And so I want her to tell you about that, and then she'll. And we're continuing a series right now. We did part 1 a couple of weeks ago, and we've got 5 core principles. I'll let her tell you because I don't remember. But go ahead, Michal. Introduce yourself, and then it's yeah. My brain just completely short circuited there for a second.
So. I know that happens sometimes at this time of year. So we are in a series, and for those who don't know me, I was actually very sick, and regular doctors and specialists didn't know what was wrong with me, and so I tried a lot of different things and kind of didn't get very many answers. And it got so bad that I was actually bedridden for a few years. And that's what had me and my family just researching, what are we missing? Where else can we look for answers? And so I did get some answers through functional medicine, holistic health, lots of different things that I did in the alternative and integrative health fields. Found out I had an autoimmune disease that doctors never tested. So they were testing very few things and said I was normal, but they didn't really run very many tests to look at what was the root cause of what was going on. So I had an autoimmune disorder that affected many different parts of my body. Probably could have had a few different diagnoses from that. A genetic condition I've had since I was a baby. It actually did show up in my blood tests. But the reasons doctors never said anything was because in the US, there's no meds for it. So again, it's like, why mention it if there's no meds?
You can't make money from it. Right?
Yeah, when really it's like, oh my God, there's so many studies in other countries that say people with this suffer with this makes it worse, this makes it better. So it's like once you know and are informed, you can make informed choices. I had serious allergies, chemical sensitivities. I mean, you name it. I really have had symptoms from A to Z. And it wasn't until I found the work that I'm very passionate about now, which is all centered around nervous system regulation, getting my body out of a state of survival and into a state of 24/7 cellular regeneration and repair. It only took like 3 months of focusing on my nervous system as the root cause instead of a million root causes. It was like a few months, and it was amazing. My allergies went away. I was told those would be permanent. My autoimmune disease went away. No sign of it in my lab test. Totally normal. Was told that would be permanent. Same with my genetic disorder. The labs it's always shown in my lab work since I was a baby, and all of a sudden it no longer shows up ever since that time of my life. So it's really remarkable, and I don't have to eat a restricted diet, and I don't have to be on tons of supplements, and I don't have to go to the chiropractor all the time, and I don't have to have the purified water and the purified air and the non-scented, non-toxic products. It's like I'm a normal human again because my body's actually functioning optimally. So while I'm passionate about health and I want to eat well, and I do, it's like I don't have to be a GMO Nazi or a pesticide Nazi, or I don't have to be afraid of food and be like the gluten police, right? And I don't have to do all those things. I can actually eat gluten again. And I was autoimmune to gluten. So it's just really cool what I've experienced in my own life. And that's what I get to see day in and day out with our practitioners and their amazing stories, as well as countless clients and their amazing miracle stories, of not needing a knee surgery anymore because the surgeon couldn't find the tear in their cartilage, and that's impossible, right? Or the doctor that couldn't find the lesions on this woman who supposedly had MS, the lesions disappeared, and that's supposed to be impossible. So I get to live in this whole world of miracles now, and that's normal for me. But I'm realizing now, oh my gosh, like the world doesn't know that there's another way, and we're really not taught this stuff. And so that's why I'm passionate about our series. And so you can check out all season 4 for our series. And
Yeah.
right now we're on kind of a mini segment of like the 5 core principles of what I did to learn to regulate my nervous system and to learn to live in that resting, digesting, growth, and repair state. And so last segment, we talked about how being present and grounded,
Mm-hmm.
connected to like our bodies, not all caught up in our survival minds. Like being present really is an instant regulator. And we talked about how to begin building that muscle and how to begin learning what that is to regulate in the moment. Now we're going to take that and move it into motion, right? Because we can do it in a moment, but how do we bring that into what we're doing in life when we are moving, when I'm not taking a pause and checking in and breathing or whatever I'm doing, when I'm actually washing the dishes or talking to clients or driving my daughter to school, or it's like, how do I do that in motion? And so we thought about maybe one title for today being presence in motion, but we decided to switch it up. And I'm actually, because it's not just that, what I really learned to do was to create a shadow work mirror. And that might be a totally foreign sentence.
Yeah.
So we're going to break that down. But if I have a mirror in my life that allows me to access those unconscious patterns and habits that are from survival, that's going to give me an ongoing way to learn more about myself and to learn to regulate in an ongoing way. So no, if you just have a breathing exercise or a yoga practice or whatever you do that helps you feel better, right? You go to the massage therapist once a week and you feel all calm and regulated. That doesn't last, does it? So we need something in life that's going to allow us to continue to build those awarenesses that we don't have. So that's our segment today. And do you want me to just dive into our definitions?
Well, let me just say one thing before you do that, and because everybody, if first of all, if any of this resonates with you or it blows your mind or it makes you or frustrates you, anything that we say, you're like, wait a minute, that's not what I've heard my whole life. Talk to Michal. That QR code right there will lead you to a place where you can schedule a time to meet with her and talk with her and say, and maybe she can enlighten you on some of these things, and because this is not normal stuff that you hear every day. This is very, very revolutionary stuff. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
And so, and if you had talked to me about this 2 years ago, I would have laughed it off. Like, I would have been like, whatever, come on. But I'm telling you, I've worked with, we've been working together, I don't know, a few months, and then with your associate Alicia, and then back, and then we're working together again. I mean, Michal and I have been working together for a little bit, and I can already, my oldest daughter, who's 21, she has seen changes in me that weren't there before, just from what we've been doing. And so I am very excited to see how this turns out on the other side of your program, and then long term, ongoing forever, how we're able to continue this. So, and my daughter was so excited, she enrolled in the program. So she like it's a family thing now. My wife wants to go next, so we're it's like, come on, let's get everybody on board. Yeah. So I'm telling you, everybody, once you hear about this stuff, it's going to blow your mind, and then you're going to think about it for a second, go, okay, how do I get a hold of Michal? So yeah, let's do it. What's the next principle?
Yeah. So, and I want to say too, I mean, I kind of knew about this realm of work for years as well. And as a functional medicine practitioner, I totally dismissed it because it went against what I had spent over a decade, right? Learning. And then I'm like, but I do react to gluten. So the nervous system can't just be that. Like, GMOs are real. Like, I mean, I had a lot to sort through, a lot of beliefs. So yeah, it took me a few years before I was like, all right, hey, like the people that I know that have gone down this direction, they're healthy and I'm not. So I had to have a humility moment of like, clearly I'm the one that's missing something.
Well, because people don't want to they don't want to feel like what they've done is not working. They want to feel like what they're doing to contribute to their health is working, and they're an active part in it. And so if you throw it all under the bus and say it doesn't matter, this is what you should be doing instead, or if you got to be careful how you talk about it, because you don't want to make them, I mean, taking supplements and going to the chiropractor is great, but what if you didn't have to,
Exactly.
So
Yes.
So, okay. Next principle is.
Hey, so that is have a shadow work mirror. So what do I even mean by these words, right? So first of all, let's back up and build some context. We are talking about that the majority of humans on the planet today actually live in fight or flight mode. They live in the sympathetic nervous system. That side's dominant, at least during the day, and that's kind of where we approach things from. Our society, our culture is very much, feeding that nowadays. And so we are talking about switching, not just regulating with acupuncture, regulating with some tool or modality. It's actually, we're talking about switching our fundamental state of operating so that we are in the parasympathetic 24/7. And if I do go in the sympathetic, because that's a survival system. If we need it, great. But that should be for like 20 minutes. We should be able to regulate, come out of that, and live ongoingly in the parasympathetic and recover very quickly. And we're not doing that. So the majority of people are already sympathetic dominant. Google that term if you've never heard of it. And so we're talking about that's really the root cause, because when we're in fight or flight, freeze or fawn, every cell down to the DNA of the cell is impacted, and our cells are in survival mode, which is very different. The functions that our cells do are very different in that mode versus when we're in a state of growth and healing and safety and regulation and nourishment, like being able to receive nourishment. Our nutrients requirements change. So when we're constantly stressed, we burn through our B vitamins. We require so many more nutrients, but we don't in the parasympathetic. So it's like, is the soil depleted, or are you in sympathetic dominance? Because I don't need a multivitamin anymore. My body's naturally absorbing all the nutrients I need from the food I'm eating, even though the soil's depleted. So it's just a whole different way of looking at it. And so the paradigm is the body is only going to respond the way that we're perceiving life. Duh. It's like, it's like people with PTSD. You say something that's totally benign, and the person with PTSD gets completely triggered and has this outrageous, over the top reaction. You're like, what did I say? It's not what you said. It's what their system interpreted, perceived. It's those triggers, right? And that mounted a full-on fight or flight response, survival response. So that's kind of what's happening. And what we're doing is we're finding what those hidden triggers are that are keeping us in survival mode. And we're resolving those so the body can be in the parasympathetic.
Well, and fawn is the one that I was the least familiar with, by the way. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Everybody knows what fight or flight is. That's pretty common. Freeze, pretty common. But fawn is correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's the people pleasing and the always wanting to, don't rock the boat, don't make waves. What do you need? I can, and you drive yourself crazy and make yourself miserable and maybe sick by catering to everybody else and ignoring yourself. And a lot of people would almost call that a personality trait. Like that's the personality types and all that kind of stuff. But really, it can really mask itself as a personality trait, but it's actually something that's unhealthy. So,
And like codependence, it's kind of like fawns, like when the animal just plays dead, because that's the safest thing. So it's like, fine, whatever you want, just don't hurt me. It's like I'm giving into that. And by the way, all attachment styles are huge these days in relationship work. The insecure attachment styles are a sympathetic response. Those are a survival response that we can be in. So even being regulated, it's like it affects all areas of our life. And that's why it's so important to learn. So, yes. And a huge thing from, if our body's only responding consistent to however our body, biology, unconscious mind is perceiving life, then that's where we really have to go to look. And, I like to think of it as living from a paradigm of fear to living from a paradigm of love, right? Or peace and values, right? Versus survival and looking good and conditioning from society of everything we think we should be and whatever. It's like we really have to shift that fundamental paradigm to have a lasting result in our nervous system. So we really are going from fear to truth or fear to love, however you want to look at it, because that's how our body's going to respond. So even how we relate to our illnesses is from a paradigm of fear. Oh no, something's wrong. So I've had tons of videos already. We're not going to rabbit trail there today, but I educate on, no, actually there's nothing to be afraid of. Your body's creating changes for a very specific reason. If you understand the reason, then you can address that. And the body creates, reverse changes or symptoms for a different kind of reason. And we can completely understand why that's happening. Learn to speak the language of the body so there's no fear, and then you just know what to do. So it's like really getting clear on that root of the root cause. That's the realm that we work in. And I think it's so helpful because as soon as I was able to understand, oh, that's why I turned on an autoimmune disease at that time of my life, it makes complete sense now based on my nervous system. No one, I was with dozens of specialists and doctors and no one had any idea, right? They're like, well, stress or well, genetics or well, it was all these pat answers, maybe childhood trauma. It's like, that's what we're told. And it's like, no, inside of understanding how the body works, a new understanding of biology or physiology, once we understand what's happening, there's no need to fear it. And so that's another thing I love about just what I teach in general. So let's hone in on this concept. So let's talk about presence in motion. First of all, we know you're going to be checking in, slowing down. If you listened to me last session, you're going to be doing that throughout the day just to catch when you're sped up and on autopilot and get present. Well, a few times a week, you want to actually build that out to not just a minute of checking in, but like a good solid 15 minutes at minimum, 15, 20 minutes, where you really get to be with yourself. And for this one, I like it to be in motion. I'm not just sitting here breathing. I'm doing something. So I mentioned Vipassana meditation last time as like a great tool. So those people kind of say, well, to bring this in motion, you could do a conscious walking. Instead of just sitting and getting present and breathing right here, stationary, you could actually go walk outside, do it slowly, right? And you're still bringing awareness to all the senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, thoughts, feelings, emotions, all of it. Can you observe that neutrally? Not get all sucked in, but like actually observe what's happening. That's already going to bring so much awareness. So maybe you're walking and you're just feeling how all your joints, like I'm focusing on the movement of my wrist, right? Or if I'm walking, my heels, my feet. I'm feeling the pressure as I put my feet, the pads of my feet on the ground. I'm seeing if I can observe all the moving grasses or trees. So I'm just being as present as I can for that like 15 or 20 minutes. And you can go longer. It's up to you, but I like starting reasonable. Let's start small so it's feasible, right?
Yeah.
So then you're doing that. And it's amazing because when I have done that, I've gained so much insight just from observing what's going on in my head and what's going on in my body and what am I feeling. And then it's like I have thoughts about having thoughts. And then I'm very critical. Like, should I even be having these thoughts, right? And I can start seeing and perceiving that inner machinery that's running in my life. And so as soon as whatever I can become aware of in those practices, I then am like, where else am I doing this? Oh yeah, I'm very hard on myself and I'm a perfectionist in this and that. And you can start becoming aware of those habits and begin shifting them. Because even if I'm just walking, I'm still practicing just observing those thoughts. I don't need to go into the perfectionistic thoughts. I can recognize, oh, and that's what the perfectionist habit does. Right? And what's underneath that, maybe if I want, or I can just observe it and kind of detach from it a little bit. And then guess what? I'm bringing that into my work life where I'm like, no, I don't have to hyper focus about that being totally perfect. It's good enough. And it's great and it's functional and it's workable. And so I'm going to allow that to be for now. So whatever you experience in your one practice, and I'll give you a few different options, you're going to recognize that those same patterns and habits show up in every area of life. So when we come back from the commercial break, I'll go through a lot of different practices you could choose from to implement a few times a week. And then we'll dive into what is a shadow work mirror and how do you pick a practice and use it as a shadow work mirror.
Love it. Yes. Stick around. Seriously, this is going to be good. I'm not even sure what's coming, but it's going to be good. So this is good. This shadow work mirror thing is still kind of blowing my mind. So yeah, everybody stick around. We will be back in just a couple of minutes and dive right into that. Stick around. See you soon.
In a world where office workers typically receive 130 daily emails and have an 8-second attention span, CoreCentrica, with her 4 decades of international marketing experience, has partnered with the Learning Code Institute and their 30 years of neuroscientific research. Together, we are crafting unique messaging strategies that resonate, connect, and ultimately convert our target audiences. CoreCentrica, where award-winning creativity and disruptive neuroscience come together. Scan this code now, or call and click, and let us show you how CoreCentrica's partnership with the Learning Code Institute is influencing how businesses connect with their audience, foster engagement, and achieve conversions.
Hi everyone, I'm Andy.
And I'm Minna.
We're the hosts of Chronically Healthy Life.
Join us Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time on Vitality TV to see how we flip the idea of chronic on its head and create chronic health in our bodies, minds, finances, and relationships, right here on E360 TV.
Hey, everybody, before we bring Michal back, I want to talk to you just for a minute about Invisible Condition University, or ICU for short. ICU is something that I wish I would have had 10 years ago. In the last 10 years, since 2013, so about 11 years, 12 years, I've had 6 surgeries, 4 of them brain surgeries, 2 others that were related. It's been a whirlwind. And every time that I had surgery, my wife and family were mostly on our own without any help from the medical community anyway. And that's why my wife, Catherine, and I created ICU. We wanted to provide a place where other people like us, maybe like you, could find, community that listens, that cares, that walks with you, whatever you're going through, whatever the condition is. We meet on Zoom twice a month for about an hour. We actually just had one yesterday. We just met yesterday, and the next one will be on January 7th. Oh, today. I think today's January 7th. So it'll be today, this afternoon at 3 p.m. Mountain Time today. So join us, and when you come, bring your caregiver, bring the person that's with the invisible condition, bring the person that's helping them, taking care of them, whether that's your mom, your dad, your sister, your friend, a professional caregiver, whatever. Bring everybody. We want to talk to all of you. We want you to feel free to ask questions, vent frustrations, find information that you're maybe not getting from the medical community. I don't know, just a hunch. If you'd like to learn more and receive a free month of the community, please go to myfreegiftfromjeff.com, scan the QR code, and I'll look forward to seeing you there. Can't wait to see you. And it's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see you soon. And let's bring Michal back on so we can keep going with this amazing stuff here that's blowing our minds. one principle at a time here.
Yep.
So,
I know it's a lot. First of all, I wish
um,
I had ICU back in the day. That was such a
right?
confusing time. It took us years and years to find answers. And I feel like if there would have been a community that was like, have you tried this, or have you done that, or have you heard of this, or this worked for my cousin? I'm like, oh, I probably would have gotten answers so much sooner. So
I mean, over the last 10 years of like trial and error, from our trial and error, we've found so many things that have worked, that have brought me back from the brink of disability, but even more in the last couple of years of having all these amazing people on the show, that has expanded our repertoire like exponentially. So
Yep.
that's all part of ICU. So that's we're so excited to share that. So yeah, thank you. I agree. I hear that a lot. Man, I wish I was around when I was going through this.
Totally, I know.
Yeah, totally.
And about this work too, man. I wish I would have found this work
Oh
sooner
yeah.
too.
Oh man.
Okay, so
Seriously.
let's go through a couple options that you could pick as your one practice. There's no right or wrong. In fact, it doesn't really matter what you pick as much as that you pick a thing and you
Yep.
keep it consistent. You keep it to that one thing and you stick with it. I'd say for like minimum of a year. Everyone was like, well, maybe that thing doesn't work for me. I'll try something else. I'm like, no, pick your thing. It doesn't even matter what you pick. Doesn't matter if you like it or not. Does not matter. So we talked about walking, right? 15 minutes of very slow walking, just building awareness of all the senses and observing what's happening, including thoughts, emotions, feelings. You could also take that into like a sitting, more of a traditional meditation, like just sitting with your eyes closed, kind of going through what's arising now, just observing thoughts, feelings, emotions, and all the senses. Mm-hmm. You can also pick an activity. So we have people that do like color by number children's coloring books, children's puzzles, right? Don't make it complicated. Don't make it about drawing this beautiful thing. You want to make it something you don't really get anything out of. So when we're walking, we're not walking and burning calories. That's not the point. When we're sitting, we're not focusing on accomplishing anything. We're just being open to what is. It's a way to connect, right? The only thing you can get out of it is time with yourself and the reflection in the mirror, which I'll talk about in a moment. How am I meeting myself? Mm-hmm. How am I treating myself? How am I operating with myself and in life? So you could do, a simple kids puzzle that you don't really care about. Takes you 15 minutes to complete, take it apart, put it in the box. You could also do like a painting by number, right? So there's lots of things you could do. You can
that's one of my favorite things about the color by number thing, because that's what I picked. I did the color by number thing. And that's my favorite thing, because I'm usually I love drawing and coloring and stuff. So it was a little tough for me to like get with that whole thing about throwing it away. But now it's like, tear the page out, crumple it up, throw it in the trash. Feels good.
Yes,
because
good.
Yeah. So I know it feels weird, but it'll feel good too.
Yes. So. Then you can take it with you. I mean, dishes could be a moving meditation, right? You can bring that mindfulness that we're talking about into any practice, but for your 15 minutes, just time with yourself, it's really important to have it be something that you don't really get anything out of. It's just time with you. And so these are some ideas that we find. We always kind of check with clients, like what will be the best. And it does change over time. They might start with coloring and then it's like, nope, now it's just 15 minutes sitting with yourself. What's arising now? What's arising now? What's arising now? And so anyway, pick one. Doesn't really matter. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, whatever, pick one. Then this is the most important part. So let's define what a shadow work mirror is. And then we will talk about what the most important part of this one practice is for you and what it can open up and teach you.
Yep.
So what is the term shadow? For those who don't know, there was a psychologist named Carl Jung, and he's the father of analytical psychology or Jungian psychology. And he actually coined the term shadow. And what it means is it's those rejected parts of ourselves. Maybe we were creative and somebody criticized it. And so we were like, I'm not right. Or maybe we were a dancer and someone criticized it. And then we're like, nope, never doing that. Won't ever feel stupid again.
Yep.
So it's like the rejected parts of ourselves, the suppressed parts of ourselves, the judged parts of ourselves where we're like, ooh, that's a not nice part of my humanity. So I'm going to just shove that behind the rug, right? And so, but it's not really processed or it's not integrated. And so I love one of Carl Jung's quotes because he says, until the unconscious, which is shadow, is unconscious, rejected, suppressed, repressed stuff, until the unconscious is brought conscious, it's what rules our lives. So when we're talking about conditioning, we're talking about fawn, right? Those personality traits that are sabotaging to us, that are damaging to us, you know, the insecure attachment styles and trauma that habits, right, that come from trauma, and any of those things that are not healthy for us, patterns and habits that are unhealthy for us, that comes from our shadow. Might come from our ego, but it really comes from our shadow for sure. So we can't see what's in our blind spot, right? So in the car, you have a blind spot, you use a mirror, right, to look in your blind spot, or you have to turn and look. So I also tell people, well, you can never see the back of your own head. The only way you can see the back of your own head, which is a blind spot for you forever, for the rest of your life, is that you hold up a mirror, right? You have a couple mirrors, so you can actually see onto the back of your head. So most of what I've learned to teach myself and do myself and use myself, but teach clients, is we don't just want to give you another tool or modality, because that's short-lived and it doesn't work. We don't want to just give you a fish. We also don't want to just teach you how to fish, because then you're just going to be copycats. You're just going to be fishing with the rod that I gave you and the bait that I gave you and the line I gave you and the technique that I gave you because I taught you how to fish. We actually want to teach you how to be a master fisherman, which means you have the discernment and intuition yourself to say, well, am I fishing on a river or a lake? Am I in a boat going after big fish, or am I going after really small fish, right? Am I fly fishing or am I lure fishing? Am I live bait fishing or am I don't know the other name, right? Not live bait fishing. Am I using worms or whatever? Okay, so it's what is needed. There's different techniques, different fishing poles, different fishing rods, lines, lures. There's a whole world to it, right? When you are the master, when you have self-mastery, it's like you're that master fisherman. And so that's what we want. We want to give you the mirrors so you can, in an ongoing basis, see your blind spots. Because sure, we can resolve whatever's there right now, but what happens when you go through a traumatic thing this year or next year? I mean, God forbid, but it's life, right? Life is full of ups and downs. So we have losses, we have traumas, we have stressors ongoingly in life. That's not going to change. How do we change what paradigm we are in and how we approach those things? And the only way that is sustainable for life is that you know how to do this on an ongoing basis. So shadow work in general, and there's a lot of offshoots. I mean, I'm like, don't even Google that, because there's some weird stuff out there. But what I mean in the purest sense is we're looking for the unconscious stuff, the unconscious patterns and habits that are coming from survival, that are coming from fear, that are coming from all of those unhealthy things that we've learned from wherever we learned them, traumas, just not having parents that knew better, it's a thing. So we all have it. How do I move from survival patterns and habits into conscious, healthy, self-aware patterns and habits, right? Gaining emotional intelligence, gaining, coming into a secure attachment in my relationships instead of an insecure attachment style, like anxious and avoidant. How do I heal? So healing then becomes so much more. It's about operating in wholeness. It's not like, well, my acid reflux is gone, or well, my autoimmune disease is taken care of. No, that's a side effect. But we want to do deeper work so that all of life can be healthy in our relationship to money, humans, our jobs, our children, our in-laws, every area of life. We want to be moving in a healthy direction. And we also want to know how to have the awareness and discernment to make healthy choices, because a lot of us come from fear, or we react, or we think something's a good idea and then it backfires. So it's like, how do we come from a clear, regulated, grounded place and contribute that in our relationships to everything in our life? That's having a shadow work mirror, right? Because the mirror is going to show you what's in your blind spot so that you can actually face what's there. So that's the shadow work mirror. So when we're using a practice as a shadow work mirror, because there's tons, and I'll continue to give you lots more mirrors. I think I have like over 500 mirrors.
Oh, geez.
In my life over the years of doing this. I think I was like
Wow.
550 last I checked. So it's like, we want to give you a few to get started, but then you just keep gaining awareness after awareness. And that really helps. If there's mirrors in every direction, you're going to see pretty clearly what's going on in the unconscious world and going on within you. So here's how you take your practice and you make it a mirror, because otherwise you're like, hey, check, I did the thing.
Right.
I colored the page and ripped it out. That means nothing, right? I tell people all the time, it's not about the activity. It's about you having time for yourself, making yourself a priority, and then showing up and following through to build that trust with yourself. So you have a current relationship to yourself. And if you are in fight or flight, freeze or fawn, if you're in sympathetic dominance, that fundamental relationship with yourself is actually unhealthy. And if you have an unhealthy relationship to yourself, how can you have a healthy relationship to anything else? So it starts here, right? So I usually recommend in between 3 and 5 times a week to have your 15 to 20 minute time. Maybe it's 15 minutes but you take 5 minutes getting grounded, slowing down, making sure you would show up like you would a date or a business meeting, right? So here's where the mirror part comes in. Do I show up on time? Or do I constantly run late to myself? I wouldn't run late for a date, but I'll push off my own activity. I'll get to you later. What message does that send to myself? Right? That's like, you're not important. You don't matter. Here's the other thing. Is it even on the calendar? If you open your calendars right now, are you on there? Like for most people, it's like, no, everyone else is on there. Well, yeah, no wonder you're in survival mode. You have to be on there. Yes, it starts with 15 minutes, but I would encourage you to put yourself on there in other ways. How much time do you actually need for a morning routine where you're not in a rush? Because most people have time, but it's like the bare minimum time for me to get out the door. And I'm like, no, what if you want to start looking at how much time do I need to complete this project, drive to the appointment, get ready for work in the morning, whatever it is, get ready for bed at night. How long do I need if I was totally slowed down, totally calm, totally at peace, totally refreshed? That's how much time you want to give yourself. So your one activity. Are you even on the calendar? Then it's like, how do you show up? So if you're on time, are you still in pajamas? Is your teeth brushed? Is your hair brushed? Like, do you have a glass of water? You know, are you distracted? Like, are you sitting at your desk with tons of distractions? Is your phone on silent? You would put your phone on silent for an important date.
Yes.
Do you with yourself, right? Is the computer screen open? So these are things that all of our clients have discovered. Like, actually, I was doing it at the window and I was watching all the people go by. So I'm not doing that anymore. I'm doing it in a different room where I can just focus. Here's another one. Do you let people know that you're in session not to bother you? Like if you're at home, because it's like, oh, my kids bugged me or this or that. Okay, you wouldn't let that happen though. If it was an important meeting or a client you were serving or a customer you were serving or, whatever, you would have like respect and you would show up appropriately. Like you valued them and you valued the time. How do we treat ourselves? So when we start looking at, am I really slowed down and connected to my inner world when I'm doing my practice? Or am I all up in my head, all up in my thoughts? So one of the things, Jeff, you told me actually is when you're really connected and you're doing it just for you, you actually feel relaxed.
Yep.
Versus when you're just going through the motions, you kind of keep that tense feeling. These are all the indicators. Like there's nothing I can say that's going to magically make you see it. You have to go experience this yourself over a period of time, man. My practice for me is lifelong. Yeah. It's morphed and changed and grown as I've grown.
Sure.
However, The principles are a lifestyle change that is lifelong. And when clients like start flaring up and maybe having some symptoms again, I can go back. How are you in your one practice? They're always not doing it, not connected in it, doing it because they think they should, doing it quickly, being all up in their heads, not really wanting to be there, being like, oh, it's one more thing for me to do. No, you are not one more thing to do. But that's how we treat ourselves. So it's no wonder we build inner stress. Every choice we make, it signals either peace of mind, heart, spirit, soul, whatever, or fear, tension, stress. We are either set. Every choice we make, it's like a vote for which side of our nervous system we're in. Every choice we make is a message, has a hidden message that we're sending to ourselves. And it's either I love you, I am here for you, I'm your number one, I'm your best friend, I'm here, I'm listening to you, I'm paying attention to you, I'm taking care of your needs, you're a priority, or you don't matter, I'll get to you later, everyone else is more important. I don't really care about your experience right now. I just need you to perform. I just need you to push through. I just need us to get somewhere else. I just need you to accomplish stuff for me. That's how I used to treat myself. Well, no wonder my body then receives messages like, I don't know, I'm not getting my needs met, right? And so like, I can't keep this up for, of course your body's stressed out. So it actually starts not with some magical fix. This takes longer, but it's actually the only thing that works over the long term is learning how to constantly check in. So then every week you're like, you can gauge, how did I show up in my one practice? And if you were late, didn't care, were too caught up in your head to even be present, well, that's how you're being with your kids too, and your spouse too, and your customers too. So we really want to, whatever's showing up in your activity, that's what I ask myself every week. Am I connected? How do I know it? Great. How is that showing up in life? Cool. I'm growing. I'm doing better. I'm improving. I'm learning. If I'm off in my one practice, how am I off? Did I not show up for myself? Did I hurry through it? Was I caught up in my head? Did I just not want to be there for myself? Then I mirror it onto life. There's your mirror right there. And thank you. I'll wrap up here in a second. There's the mirror is how am I doing those same behaviors, those same patterns and habits everywhere in life? And however you do one thing is how you do everything. So your activity then becomes one of your greatest teachers. It's not about the practice itself. It's more how do I use that to be a mirror to see how I'm showing up in every other part of my life? Then with that awareness, we automatically become aware of it. Then we actually automatically make changes. It's the unconscious stuff that we don't know how to fix. And then we're in a fight with willpower. But as soon as we become conscious of what's underneath those patterns and habits and why we're even doing them and where they come from, that clarity naturally breeds change. So then my willpower is just there because I see what I'm doing to myself. I feel it. I see the impact. As soon as you see the mechanism of something, you can't unsee it. It's only when you don't understand the mechanism, you're only seeing these surface level symptoms that you're like, I don't know why I do that. That's an invitation to find out, by the way. So anywhere we're like, I don't know why I do that. I don't know. The I don't knows are actually where we go, let's find out. And that's where this works. And when you resolve that unconscious turmoil, when you integrate shadow, it lasts with you for life. It's not something that is going to come on and off again with you. It's something you're actually investing into a lifetime of change. So
well, and even something as simple as when you're talking about your one activity, and you told me this right from the start when, you know, as we're working together, and you said, set a timer. Because I was having trouble. I was like, are we done yet? Is it over? Is it 15 minutes yet? Is it, you know, and then you keep looking up at the clock and looking up at the clock and looking up, and it's like, no. Set a timer and just dive in, you know, and then when the timer goes off, you're like, wow, where did the time go? You know, so something as simple as that is taking care of yourself. So
and it's just the slowing down to perceive the feelings and the thoughts, and it's all there. It's probably the voice that you've made really small in the background.
Yeah.
But it's learning
Exactly.
to listen to that inner wisdom, that inner voice that we all have been given, and really paying attention to it. And it's like, if I value myself and love myself, I'm gonna say, oh, that's uncomfortable for you. How can I make you more comfortable? Right? It's like what I would do for someone else is like, yeah, let me make this easier for you. So it's learning to love myself with that same measure of care. And that really changes everything, because when we have one person that we know is that always for us, it's like our psyche changes in ways we can't even imagine, because thankfully you're listening to me now, you're hearing me, you're paying attention to me, you're taking care of my needs. I know I'm important. I know I'm going to be okay. And that's what breeds security and regulation.
Exactly. I love it. All right. Awesome. Let's go to a break real quick, and then we'll come back. We'll have about 6 or 8 minutes left to dive into some last minute stuff. And then, time flies when you're having fun. These always go so fast, but we're here. So, all right. We'll see you on the other side of the break. Stick around. We'll see you soon.
Hey there. You know, every time someone comes into your business or website and uses their card to pay, a percentage of that gets folded back into the system. But it can go to Hydro with Hope instead. If you'd like your business to support us rather than feed back into the system, scan the QR code and we'll show you how to do that while saving your business money.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Russell. I'm the host of TechnologyTuesday.com. You can find us on the Conscious Business TV network every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the latest resources to help you make more money in your business. Join us on E360 TV. Come on.
Here we go. I tell you what, this time always goes so fast, but I hope you guys have been taking notes, because this is all good stuff. And by the way, I don't know if I think it might have just been, what we did at the beginning of season 4 with your all the episodes that you are on, but it's the same we've got the same picture, like it's your same headshot is on every one of them. So, and it kind of stands out because it's got the red in the background, so it's like, if you are watching and you're like, oh my gosh, where do I get more of this? It'll be pretty easy for you to pick them out. So look through those episodes starting in season 4, even before season 4. She's been on before too. And soak it up, man, because there's a lot of good stuff out there. So
love it. So a few quick parting thoughts. And you guys are so great, because I know I like fire hose you with information. So I actually had a mentor once use the analogy of a snow globe. And that, when life shakes us up, all the snow, all our inner turmoil, all our unconscious stuff, our patterns and habits, etc., comes to the surface. And that's what we actually are doing when we're doing shadow work, is getting the snow out, right? Or we're putting in glitter instead of snow, right? So we look at life through rainbows and sunshine versus, oh my God, a blizzard, right? Panic and fear. Yeah, I had another mentor after that time talk about being a stir stick. She said, my job is just being a stir stick. And she was a shadow worker. She studied Carl Jung and all of that work. And she said, so if you have a glass full of dirt, if you let that dirt settle, I mean, the water on top seems pretty clear, right? And so shadow work is the stirring of the stuff so that it all can come up, because anything that's suppressed is going to rule your life, and you're just not even going to see how the cause and effect is working. It's so subtle, almost imperceptible, unless if you know how to do this. And so what's interesting is I'm like, I don't think I'm a stir stick. And I actually thought about that one time, and the picture that came was a seeth, you know, like am I saying that right? A seeth? It's like like the Grim Reaper has it, but I'm not.
Like a sickle, like the
Because I think I'm a little more precise when we're working with chronic illness, that we're cutting away those parts that no longer serve us, right? We're going, it's like surgery. Like I'm the sharp blade that's going in more specifically. Okay, what's setting us up for this illness? I'm not just looking at a very general, we could do shadow work the rest of our lives, and we should, but it's like, you know, we'll be learning and growing forever. But it's more like, how can we narrow in specifically on what's causing those specific symptoms? That's what we're really good at. So that's what I think I am, is like, I'll just go right in there and get it. So, and I'll teach you to do the same, right? Like we all
that's the important part. Yes,
you're not dependent upon me. And that's what I didn't like about some of the mentors I've had, is there was this codependency then on requiring them to know what was going on with me. And I didn't like that. So I spent a lot of years working on teaching in a way that you could experience this and you could discover this for yourself, and you could have agency and sovereignty over yourself and be responsible for yourself. And sure, I'm here to run stuff off of, like, I'm a mirror. I'm also a mirror. But at the end of the day, it's teaching, empowering you to live in the way that works for you. So there's no like what works for you. So that's one thing. And then I just wanted to share one last thing in parting thoughts. When I really started this, I feel like I could only be connected or present in motion like for 60 seconds at a time. And that was humbling for me. So I know we say start with 15 minutes, but even in that, I would notice I would just go and be totally lost in my head. And then I'd come back and be like, oh my gosh, I was just gone for like minutes, right? I was all up in my head. I was gone. I wasn't here. I wasn't present. And so it was like, hey, humbly, that is my starting point then. So that's where I'm building my muscles, and I built them and I built them and I built them. And at one point in my life, and I still have accountability that I reach out to, it was actually that I needed to let go of my one activity, because for me to be connected was to embody it all the time and notice when I wasn't all the time, not just be looking in the 15 minutes. And so that, even though you might resist having a practice and you might hate it, 3 times a week, Michal said to do this, you know, at some point you're going to be like, oh my God, I have to let that go. You know, that's how it felt for me, was like, no, that's my security blanket now, you know? And so, but the point is you're building muscles, and really those muscles you're going to build and build and build so that you can live all of life present in motion. And that means that while you're doing dishes, you're actually using the same muscle to slow down and be fully present and connect and be aware of all the senses and your intuition and your feelings and all of that. You know, when you're eating, same thing, mindfully, it's bringing that level of presence to every area of life. If you do that, there's no way you would be in survival. And it's still a practice for me. I'm not perfect, and I'm human, and I'm still learning and growing, but I am committed and devoted daily to living from this place. And when I'm not, it now feels very yucky and very weird. And I catch it almost immediately. I used to be off track for weeks and not know it. Now I'm like, oh, it's been an hour and I'm feeling like, whoo, I gotta get connected again. So that's the goal, is that you start small, but you're gonna be able to live all of life in an entirely different way, which means you're not gonna miss out on anything, and you're actually going to be able to show up your best and use your intuition to make wise choices and really create a upward healthy trajectory of your choices and how you show up in work. And then you get a raise, and then it builds. So that's all I wanted to say.
No, you're good. You're good. No, I know we could keep going for another hour if we weren't careful. So it's that'll be next time. See, that's the
yes.
So yeah, next show that we will have Michal will be on the 21st of January. So look forward to that. We're going to be tackling another principle of the core principles here. So that'll be number 3. So mark your calendar and join us for our next show, which will be on, let me look here. I think it's, January 10th. So Friday, January 10th, we'll have another guest talking about their amazing story. And for all the things, like, share, subscribe. If this is your first episode, lucky you. This is awesome. I'm so glad you're here. And so join us on the 10th. And till then, have an amazing day, and we will see you next time.